Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. This is part 5 of the series on Ireland family reunification tutorial, and in this part 5 I'm going to be talking about the checklist, the final checklist you need to go through to make sure that all your documents are okay, and then you are ready to submit your application for joint family visa. This is the final checklist, what you need to go through, what you need to do, how to arrange your documents for and prepare for submission, and make preparations to go to the visa office for your appointment, just to take your capturing and to submit your documents, and then what your family, what they need to do after they arrive in the country as well. So this is part 5. Make sure you go to part 1, part 2, part 3, 4, and this series, this is part 5, which is going to be the last video in this series if you haven't started with me previously. So make sure you go through the other ones and then watch before watching this, because this is the last episode in this series. Now I want you to first know the difference between short stay and long stay family visas. Long stay and short stay family visa. So a short stay family or friend visa allows you to travel to Ireland to visit your family or your friends for up to 90 days, and that is subject to certain conditions listed below. All short stay visas, they are also called category C visas, and those visas under C categories, they don't allow you to work or paid or unpaid of any kind unless you have another kind of permit to allow you to do that. Then you're not going to be allowed to use any public funds, any publicly funded services like public hospitals. Even if you want to do that, then you can go. You definitely need your insurance. You need your insurance. So short stay visit visas, short stay family visas won't allow you to work, won't allow you to use public funded facilities, and would only allow you to travel to the country and nothing else. It doesn't give you permission to enter the country or to stay in that very country that you have gone into. And even at that, if you have a category C visa, joint family visa category C, an immigration officer at the border control can still deny you entry even if you have a visa. Now the purpose of this, for joint family visas, for nurses, for doctors, maybe people, healthcare workers that have critical skills permit or general employment skills permit. So like I've explained earlier on, your category is not going to be short stay. Yours is going to be long stay joint family visa. So if you're in Ireland already and your family member, your spouse, your immediate family, they are looking to join you and your kids, then definitely they are going to select long stay joint family visas, not the short stay one. So you don't make that mistake. That's the purpose of this explanation, so that you can know the difference, that there is another version of the joint family which is short stay. You are not going to select that. So for short stay visa applications, definitely people need complete signed printed online visa application form, like I've explained previously, set of photocopies of online printed form, the passports valid for 6 months, one set of photocopies of all the pages of the passport, and we also one set of original documents and one set of the photocopies of the original document as per the relevant checklist, and 2 recent photographs. So this is not your category. It's only if as a family member you're going to stay for a short period, less than 3 months, and then you're going to go back. That is that. But joint family visas for immediate family, for kids, for spouses, then it is going to be short stay. Definitely for all categories of visas, you need your A3 sized prepaid courier service return envelope. So payment for this is going to be available at the visa application centers. Ignore the price I'm showing on, that's for Nigerian embassy, but prices have changed. That is just for your registered courier service, just to return all your original documents and your visa by post. So you don't need it. Just ignore that. That was just an overview of what you need to do. Now on your long stay visa application for your family members that would be joining you, especially your immediate family, your spouse and your kids, they need the complete, signed and printed online visa application form, like I've explained earlier on, the visa questionnaires and the summary, signed, printed out and signed, and 2 sets of photocopies of online. So everything you're going to be doing, every document you're going to be submitting, you need 2 separate photocopies of them. So all your originals, you're going to arrange them just according to the checklist I'm going to show you, and each set of photocopy of everything you're getting as well, you need to arrange them as well using that checklist. So you need your originals complete, and you need all the photocopies times 2 of everything you are going to be submitting as well. Now this is for your sponsor in Ireland, which could be your spouse, which could be a company, or anyone that you're joining permanently. Then make sure that they have all these things that I'm going to list for you on your screen. Make sure you have included them. So your sponsor has provided, make sure that you have already provided the details of the person you intend to live with in Ireland, which is the name of your family member that you are joining. Remember, I showed you how on your documentation about how to draft your letter of invitation, letter of application. So on that letter of application, I showed you the draft. Then you have to make sure, this is just a checklist, just to confirm again that you've included the name of the person you're joining, you've included the person's address, home address in Ireland, including the hair code if you know that, and or the zip code or whatever the landmark is for the address. And you need to include relationship. The relationship, is that person your spouse, is that person a family member, is that person a sister or a parent, something like that. Just make sure you're including a relationship and evidence of that. If it's a spouse, your marriage certificate, your birth certificate that is attested by Ministry of Foreign Ministry of Affairs in your home country. And the other thing, have you provided the telephone number of the person you would be joining in case they want to give them a call to confirm 1 or 2 things? Have you included the email address of the person on the letter you have written? And have you included the immigration status of the person or the family member that you will be joining in Ireland on the letter you have written? So make sure you do that. Go through my draft. If you haven't started, you can go back to watch part 1, 2, 3 and 4 of this series so that you can understand how to do things properly. And how long has the family member been in Ireland? Have you included that on your letter that you have written? Then the family members, if you have any other family members aside the person you would be joining, if they are permission, if they have a stamp 1 permission or a stamp 4 permission, they would tell you, because everyone in Ireland, they have 1 or 2 stamps, and they know some are citizens already, so they would be able to tell you their kind of immigration permission. So you need to include a GNIB number or the Irish residence permit number. They would be able to give you that as well. That should go on the letter you have written. And you need to also specify if the person has already been naturalized as an Irish citizen, or exactly when they became Irish citizens. You need to include that in the letter you have written as well. Now that is just a checklist for the host, and you also need to include if the family member is it's a national of another European country. You need to state that on the letter as well. If yes, you have to mention other countries they have lived in before coming to Ireland. So you are not just going to provide the address for where they are currently, you are also going to provide another place they have lived, just in case they might want to verify criminal records and things like that. So you need to include that as well. And then this is another checklist for the host. Have you included the family members' bank statements, employment letter, the pay slips, the critical skills permit, or the general employment skills permit, depending on their permission? And depending on the kind of work they do, have you included all of those things? And have you submitted your sponsor's P60, that's in revenue, their evidence of payment of tax in the country they're residing in Ireland, and any rental agreement, anything, if they own properties, if they have mortgages to pay and other things like that. But especially if your sponsor is going to be covering your accommodation expenses and things, pending even your flight details, so they need proofs that they can really afford that. I've mentioned that earlier on the documentation. Now, having included all that, you're ready to go, then now this is the way you're going to arrange your documents. So you must tab your document, your application from 1 to 11 in the order below. Otherwise, it might take really long to process your application, and you don't want anything like that. So the first thing you need to arrange, remember that I mentioned that if you have kids, for example, you also, even though your kids are not going to be providing other things like I mentioned earlier on, but they definitely need their own online application form in their own name. They need their own visa questionnaire in their own name. They need their own visa summary sheet in their own name as well. So you need to make sure you take cognizance of that. So the first thing you're going to be doing to be separating your application summary, if you are getting 2 photocopies extra of everything you get, make sure that everything is × 1 original and 2 other photocopies. So your summary paper is going to be printed out as well alongside when you fill your online form, and the online application form itself, you need to also print that out as well. Your visa questionnaire, there's going to be a questionnaire following each application. You need to include that as well. Police clearance, now this is not really applicable to everyone. It's only if maybe you are going for employment visa, or you as a spouse that is traveling, you already have your own employment or other things, you might need to include that, especially, or if you have a criminal record previously, or you've been incarcerated before, or you've been arrested for 1 or 2 things, or you have a court issue or things that might need clearance, you might need to include that. So it's not really applicable to everyone. Immigration document, that is if you are a spouse or maybe a partner that has been traveling previously, and maybe your kids have been traveling as well, you need to include previous permissions. If you have refusals, you need to include that as well, and your residence cards from the places you have traveled to. So again, that is not applicable to everyone. So your visa application summary, the online form itself, and the questionnaire, those things are okay per person, per applicant. And kids also need their own in their own name as well. Then the number 2 thing you're going to be arranging after that is your host in Ireland, the document for your host. So you need the invitation letter from your host, and that letter should document. I've already given a template of how to draft that correctly. If you watch part 3, part 4 of the series, you will see what I mentioned. And another thing is that the immigration documents of your host in Ireland, you need that. The copy of their passport, you need that. Current and previous immigration letters, like a letter from Department of Justice, which is the critical skills, or their current permit, and their residence card as well, especially if they're not citizens of Ireland, or they're not citizens of any European country. So you need their residence card as well. It's not applicable to citizens, so you need your passport for all the pages of the host's passport, or all of the pages. You need to photocopy that, and your host can send that to you by mail, or original documents of the host like critical skills permit and all of the other stuff. Your host would need to send that by courier to you, because at the embassy they only want originals, and then immediately you get them back, you can always send them. You can always send that back later, or bring it with you when you're traveling. Bring it with you. Remember that every original document that you send alongside your visa application, you need a paper paper. You need another letter in your own name, just to make a list, that just to say these are the original document that I've included, and I want them to be returned to me via courier. Sometimes there might be omissions and stuff like that, but make sure that there is a list. Make a list of the document that you want them to return, because some of your host documents are going to be included, the originals are going to be included, and you would get that by courier. That's all. And then immigration document from the host, and accommodation details, that is going to be on the invitation letter as well. If the person is going to Ireland as a tourist, that is not applicable to everyone. Then another thing, English language test results, especially if you are taking up a job, or if you as a partner that is looking to join your family in Ireland, you are going to complete maybe professional exams or other things. Maybe you have an admission and you want to start schooling and stuff like that. Especially if you are non-European, you might need your English language test results. You might need that just to make sure that everything goes smoothly after arrival and you can easily get the job that you desire. You might need an English language test result. Sometimes it's not applicable if you are in Ireland already. It depends on what they want, especially maybe employers or institutions for study. Then insurance cover, definitely you need your medical insurance. Long stay joint family visas, you need insurance to cover up. That insurance is going to last maybe for initial 2 years or 1 year. Definitely you need something, because an immigration officer might ask you at the border to present your insurance. So if it's a short stay visa that you have applied for, then that travel insurance is enough. But if not, you are staying permanently, you need a proof of medical insurance, just in case something happens to you anyway. And another thing is you need the applicant. You as an applicant joining your family, you've received invitation letter from the host. You need your own cover letter as well. Again, I've included this draft in my previous videos, so find that and watch that so that you can get it correctly. And so application letter is required for all applications, and if an agent is helping you to make your application, you need a signed authorized letter from yourself that you also are using an agent or a legal representative. So you would need that, and the agent would have to write a letter as well to say that you are using their services. They would have to write a letter as well to say that you are using their services. Most times that's not applicable because you have to do that yourself. If you can get the video on my draft, then you're very, very fine. You don't need any agents to help you out. Then financial document for yourself. If you're working, you need proofs from your place of work, evidence of pay slips and stuff like that. If your host is sponsoring you, then evidence of financial documents from your host as well. Then employment document. If you're currently working in your place of work and you're traveling, you're joining your family, then you still need your proof of employment letter. You need your pay slip, you need your tax certs. Tax may not be applicable to you where you're working, and your host might be providing all of those things. If your host is sponsoring you, that would have been stated on the invitation letter anyway, and then they can use that of your host to cover up for most of the things. And educational documents required if you're a student, or if you will be applying for jobs where you're going, that may not be applicable to everyone as well. Then another thing is copies of all passport pages. You need that, your own passport, the original, and then the photocopy of all the pages times 2. You need, then you pin them together. You need that as well. If you've had other copies of passports that have expired in your hands previously, you also need the photocopies times 2 each. All the pages of each of those expired ones, you need to include them as well. If not, your visa might really take long to process. Miscellaneous, any other documents submitted, you need that as well. Other documents which I haven't mentioned previously, you need to include that as well, especially under the documentation, those that I explained previously. Then For partners that would be joining their family members in Ireland, you need to know that at immigration, despite the fact that you now have your visa on your passport, they would still, an immigration officer would still ask you for your passport, the valid one, not the expired ones. You can keep them now. When you have received them back by post, they would still ask you for your passport. They would make sure that your visa that is stamped on your passport is a category D, which is long stay. And then if you're not from a visa required country, some African countries, I mentioned that in part 1, some countries don't even require visas. So countries like that, they might need just an immigration pre-clearance letter. That is all they need. That is all they need. And after all is said and done, make sure that all the documents that are originals that you want the visa officer that processed your application to send back to you, make sure you list them on a paper and just say and just sign and date that and say that kindly return all these original documents back to me, and put the names of those documents and put them in bullet format and include that with all your applications. Make 2 additional photocopies of that and include that as well, that they should return that to you. So eventually when they are sending your passport that has the visa by courier, they are going to include all of the documents you have mentioned. Now your family has gotten their visa successfully and they can book their flight. When they book their flights, and after arrival, there is a significant thing they need to do. So your partner must definitely be in Ireland before they can register with immigration and apply for residency permission. Your partner needs to register with immigration if they plan to stay in Ireland for more than 90 days. So for long stay joint family visas, it is mandatory that your partner registers with immigration when they come in. It's not going to be immediately on arrival. They would have been at home maybe for 1 or 2 days, and then they can book online their appointment with immigration office to get registered. So if they are staying for more than 3 months, they definitely need to register. All kids below 18 years of age, they don't need to register. All adults above 18 must register with immigration if they are staying more than 90 days. And the cost per head per adult is 300 euros, and that is renewed yearly or every 2 years depending on the immigration permit that your spouse have. And for first-time registration as an adult, when you come in, you want to book your registration. If you are in Dublin, you can go Bookie appointment. That is Irish anyway, I don't even know how to pronounce that. So you can visit www.irishimmigration.ie. When you visit that, you can see the link to click on Dublin appointment. And for outside, for those that are not living in the capital, they can use other links provided as well. So definitely, if you are residing in Dublin City and you've recently joined your spouse, you need to register your permission for the first time. You can free phone this number showing on your screen. You will definitely see that if you visit this site as well. So when you free phone that number, they can pick it up and then they can book your appointment for you to come in. So when going for that appointment, you can also use that same number to cancel your appointment or to reschedule your appointment as well. Make sure that you have all your passport details while making the phone call and your valid email address to share with the customer service representative when you make your call. So definitely on the day of appointment, you need to make sure that you have all the necessary documents that you need to go. So you and your spouse that you have joined in Ireland, they have to present in person at that appointment. They have to go in person. You can't just send your partner that has joined you by himself or by herself. You have to go together because they will verify your details, they will check your passport, they will confirm the stamp and make sure that your stay is legal in the country. and kids don't need to register, like I mentioned earlier on. So your original passport, you need that, not a photocopy this time. Your partner's passport, you need that, not a photocopy this time. Evidence of your joint address in Ireland, most times that is evidence of your electricity bill or gas bill or utility services bill. So that is one of the proofs of address in Ireland. Make sure you have that. You could use a letter from revenue, your spouse could use that, but make sure it bears either of your names. So you need evidence of your joint address in the country, and then you need to go with the official letter granting you permission to join your partner in Ireland, which is going to be the critical skills, permit, or the general employment permit, the permit that your spouse has that authorized you to join your spouse immediately, or if you have a general employment permit that authorized you to join your spouse after 1 year. For critical skills, it's immediately. All waiting times are with embassies in different countries. So, but for those processing in Ireland, that takes 2 weeks according to immigration sites, and it could take months in other places. So the official letter granting you permission, you need to go with that to your appointment, and any other documents named in your permission letter, like the employment letter of employment or the contract of employment from your spouse for the work, and every other details provided on the critical skills, because you got the critical skills, your spouse got that based on the work he or she was doing with their facility. So you need a proof that you are connected with that facility as well. You don't want to get an appointment date only for you to be sent back due to incomplete documentation, because at this appointment, the immigration officer, the registration officer, they are going to stamp your passport as your the partner that has just coming into the country. They will give you a stamp. They will issue your Irish resident permit. It's a small card that details that you have permission to stay in Ireland, and it's going to stay your stamp that you are allowed to work without reservations. It's going to state that. So you need that. That is the purpose of the registration. So you need, and you would need to renew that every 1 year or every 2 years, depending on the permission on your card. And you need your registration fee of 300 euros. It's not applicable to kids below 18, like I mentioned earlier on. And at the appointment, your partner, because you in Ireland, you as a spouse, that's your as a sponsor, you've already done this, so you won't need to do that again, but you are going because of your spouse. Definitely your partner's fingerprints and photo would be taken. And that is it. So if you're living in Dublin and you want to make an appointment, you can free phone the number on your screen, and the office you need to go to is Irish Nationalization and Immigration Service Registration Office. So that is it. That is the address that is showing on your screen. But if you are outside Dublin or in other counties like County Cork, County Limerick, or wherever you are outside, you can call or email your local registration office for an appointment. All details are available online. So when your residence is granted, after taking your photograph or having your fingerprint taken, you will definitely go home. You're not going to get that card on that very day. They will send it to you, your registered post, your registered address. They will send it to that by post. That is why you need to present a proof of address. That's just to make sure that your card, when issued, is not going to get lost. So they just want to make sure you've received letters in that appointment, and those letters you've been receiving have been consistent. That is the purpose. So your partner, they can put a stamp 4, they can put a stamp 1G, depending on the stamp they give you. It's going to state that you are allowed to live and work in Ireland without reservations. And if you're an immediate family member of an Irish citizen, you're going to receive a stamp 4 immigration permission, which allows you to work without an employment permit or to establish or manage or operate a business. So definitely all details of stamp options, they're all on the INIS website. Irish Naturalization and Immigration Services. They're on their website. So for immediate family members of non-European sponsors, we have dependent status only, and we continue to be subject to the employment permit requirement just for the first 2 years, and they can give them the stamp that says they are allowed to live and work in Ireland without reservations as well. So that is the change. Your spouse can live and work in Ireland. You as the partner and as the sponsor, you're already living and you're working in Ireland as well. After the first 2 years, the sponsor is not going to need an employment permit to work in Ireland anymore. So their stamp is going to change when they go back to INIS to re-register. The stamp is going to change, and they no longer need an employment permit, either critical skills or general employment permit, to work in Ireland anymore. But your spouse can always work in Ireland under any circumstances. So that is it. This is the last part of this series. Thank you so much. If you started this with me, part 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, this is the last one for Join Ireland, Join Family Reunification tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video as well. I'm going to announce what I'm going to be doing next, okay? And make sure you give a like to this video, subscribe if you haven't done that. Make sure you subscribe, and make sure you leave a comment down below to let me know you are following. And if you have any questions, you can also drop them down below as well. Thank you so much for joining, and happy listening.